maybe that way. Okay, thank you everybody for joining us. We're very happy that you're here with us today. Again, I'd like to say Ampetu Washte, good day, and also Tayaya Hipi, welcome everybody. These are our Lakota ways that we start to greet one another as we're really in a good, lively spirit. We're very happy, good hearts today. And we're celebrating this day that we're recognizing now as Lakota Art Day. This is the third annual day now that we've had this. And we started out very small, but we've also are growing. And I think that it's with a good vision for the future that we might have more relatives who join into this celebration. And so my name is Keith Braveheart. I'm very happy to kind of help co-host this portion of the celebration. This is the kickoff to the day, which is going to be a virtual session, and it features a virtual artist panel as we get into a discussion around our topic this year, which is going to be Lakota design. But before we start, I'd like to also mention all of the partners who make this day possible. So I'm here as a program manager for the Oglala Lakota Art Space. We're one of the partners into this event. And then our next partner, who was with us from the beginning, is Racing Magpie up in Rapid City. And so we want to give a lot of good applause. You guys can, share reactions and be excited that way too. The next partner that we want to mention is going to be Wichak Biolowa Music Program, which is a part of the Oglala Lakota Art Space as well. So we got talent here. And then our final partner will be the Oglala Sioux Tribe Artist Laureate Program. So these are the partners that are making this possible, but we also want to mention the sponsors who are behind, helping us with some of the moving parts for these events. And those sponsors would include Jackalope Advertising and Media, but also Thunder Valley CDC. And then we also have the Oglala Sioux Tribe Vice President's Office. And then finally, the Heritage Center at Makbia Luta School. So I'm really hoping that you guys will consider them really good relatives. And then if you see them, give them a good appreciation. So the next part of this, we're just going to take a few minutes as we move to some of these individuals so they can share a little bit of an opening remark, but also tell you what's kind of happening in their part of this day. So I'm going to turn it over now to AJ, no braid, if AJ's here, but I see she might have just left, so we can circle back to AJ last. But I'll turn it over next to Peter Strong from Racing Magpie.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, we're really glad to see all of you here and here in our space here in Rapid City, Mini Luzaha. We're excited to be involved in all three art days. Really grateful Keith keeps inviting us back. Today, what we're going to do is we've got space set up for people to join in person and watch it on a big screen TV here. We've got popcorn that'll be getting popping while you all are talking. So hopefully people will join here. And then Dwayne Wilcox and Ray Janice will be doing a interactive community arts project here at Racing Magpie centered on Lakota design elements. And at the same time, we have an open mic that people will be able to come and jump on the microphone here in the gallery and join in. And we've got a performance that Talon might talk a little more about here in a little bit. But we've got two headliners, and then at 5 o'clock we'll have a little gallery opening reception for the pieces that you see behind me that are by Dwayne Wilcox and Ray Janice. So really glad to be here and good to see you all.
Thank you, Peter. We'll move on next to Talon. Talon, you want to share a little bit of your opening remarks and give us some of the headliners tonight?
Absolutely. Hamadaki Chante Washington Nape Cheese Apiro Town Bazodishno Amachi Apiro Demie Wakia Chante Waokia Wichasha. Hello everybody. Really happy to be here for this Lakota Art Day. Last year we along got to participate a little bit with some music with Cody Blackbird, who came and did flute, and we had an open mic at OLA there as part of the day. And now this year, thanks to our program partners, so we are under First Peoples Fund, and we are hosted at the Oglala Lakota Art Space, but we also are in close partnership with Playing for Change Foundation, who really does make it possible for us to do things like this, where I think as Lakota, right, one often thing that occurs is we'll experience something we love. And what's our first reaction but to say, oh, I wish, we could make other people feel this way. I wish we could bring Sundance to these people over here or this feeling that, it's fourth day and we feel so good. For me, music's like that. And so we're very excited to have both open mic portions at both locations, as well as Keith was mentioning and Peter was mentioning earlier, some performances. So at the Racing Magpie, we'll have Rapid City Natives bands Beats, who does hip hop rap and his own production, as well as Cranston Joel, who does acoustic work. A lot of like, if you listen to Green Day, like the really cool punk rock and like that stuff, he does amazing, amazing work. And over at the Oglala Lakota Art Space, we have Santi Witt. Many people know Santi as someone who does a lot of traditional and contemporary Lakota music, but you'll be excited to see a lot of the other stuff he has to perform there with acoustic guitar, electronic music, R&B, and different collaborations he stuck on with a lot of young rappers around the area as well, and trying to, you know, show them a good way too. And then Kat Clifford, who is also, he's going to be busy today. He's doing workshops there at OLA, and then he's doing a set for us as well at the end there. I always, like, when I hear him, I think of my cousins who grew up with George Strait and 3 6 Mafia on the same CD and running around in cowboy boots and Jordan trunks. That vibe is very, very present with his music, so you'll enjoy that. And then, of course, our well as a performer, Pate Songli is going to be helping us bring more poetry back to OLA. It's something that we've wanted to do for a long time, and to have more poets around. And I myself wrote a poem just for the open mic because of the occasion. So please, if not for the open mic, come to see her, because she performed at We the People before and does a lot with Indian Girls Book Club and so much other positive stuff. When you come and see her and hear her, you'll feel validated for all of the things you feel with the craziness going on in the world. And then myself, so I'm the manager of the We Talk Law Music program. I've been asked to put in a performance tonight as well, so I'll be face painting up and doing a bunch of weird stuff on stage as well. But with that, just want to say it really is our pleasure to be a part of this. When Keith was talking about Lakota Art Day and its significance, one thing that came up was Lakota design. And I think when you mention musicians, whether they're traditional, contemporary, or what have you, you have so many different types of design that are indeed Lakota, because Indigenous people have been a part of every genre since the beginning of American history. It's American music, and we were here. So we obviously had something to do with it. So documentaries like Rumble and all of that stuff will show you more, just like artists here, each of them showing different personality traits and things that inspire them, stuff that they like. I believe the same exists with so many of our musicians, where even if they're a different genre you've never heard before, you'll hear, oh yeah, that guy's from Rapid. Oh yeah, that guy's from Ridge. Oh yeah, that guy's actually
going to be a
from
good lineup tonight. Going to be a really good lineup. So thank you,
We're
Talon.
excited.
And if you guys can, please make it to one of these performances, either here at the Art Space or up in Rapid City at Racing Magpie. I'm going to turn it over to AJ now. AJ, do you want to give a rundown for the Art Space, please?
Sure. And Petu Washte, good morning, everybody. Lakota Art Day is here. We've been looking forward to this. Right now, we're gearing up for our activities that'll happen later in the day. Our cook, Karen, is working on soup and fry bread, so we'll be able to feed some of our visitors who come today. We've got a couple art activities. We've got Medicine Wheels, which Stephanie Tucrow will be helping us with, and Kat Clifford. As Talon said, he's going to be pretty busy today with his music and also with helping with this art activity. The other activity we have is going to be earring making, and January Rose Mathis is going to help us with that. She's one of our teaching artists. And also Dora Youngdog. This is going to be her first time helping us out with an event, so I'm looking forward to seeing her. And I'm really looking forward to the open mic. And I've never seen Talon perform, so that'll be a first for me. So I'm looking forward to that as well. We've got some great raffle prizes for everybody. And I want to say thanks to those of you who have donated to that. I think we'll have a good time here today. I wish we had a little better weather, but we are scheduled to have a food truck that'll come too. So it'll be a good time for everybody. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, AJ. And again, thank you to all of the partners that are helping to make this art day, Lakota Art Day possible. I mean, they're really doing a lot of strong efforts, and it's really like a big collaboration that takes many arms to help hold up, but also the sponsors. And I also want to circle back to mentioning First Peoples Fund. First Peoples Fund is another big part of helping us to make this event possible, and they've really provided a lot of support to help us so that we can get the word out, and then also show that we are very intentional with what we're trying to do with this effort. And so now let's move on to the virtual artist panel. And it's very exciting. This has been another part of the event since we began. And I know that this is one that's really accommodating, so we can bring in a lot of our relatives who might not really be immediately in the area where a lot of the celebrations may be taking place. But it's nice because we can also connect and offer to audiences as far out there in the reaches that Lakotas may be. And we also want to keep in mind too that it's not an attempt to be too big-headed when we talk about Lakota-centric kind of celebration, but we welcome in all of our relatives, especially the relatives that are from the Ochete Shakomi Confederation. Those are our close relatives, but all indigenous peoples and all other relatives that are in this world with us as well too, who bring in values that represent and reflect how indigenous peoples, have their own interpretations of lifestyles. And so art is a big part of that. And there's so many different ways that we can start to have good conversations, good quality conversations about art when it's our own voices that are being shared. And so this year's topic is Lakota design. And this is an attempt just to get started. I know there's so much more that we can be jumping into, but I think that with the panelists that we have here today, you're going to see that there's so many dimensions to what Lakota design could be. And I'm so excited and impressed by this lineup. And so the first panelist is going to be our relative from Rapid City, Mary Bordeaux. Mary, I'll share the screen and then you can take it over when you're ready.
Okay. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted? Okay. So hi everybody. I'm Mary Bordeaux. I'm Sicangu, Oglala, Lakota, and I am from Pine Ridge. I live in Rapid currently, and then right now I am in Spearfish, South Dakota. I am not adjunct. I'm a assistant professor. Okay, I just have to say I'm nervous. And then once I say I'm nervous, I'm okay. So I'll be okay now. So but I am assistant professor in the American Indian Studies Department at Black Hills State. I'm also co-founder, co-director of Racing Magpie. And I'm really excited to be here. And I have a background in museum studies and I'm an alumni of the Institute of American Indian Arts. And I just recently completed my doctorate degree in leadership. And so, like a true academic, I titled my presentation today and titled it Lakota Design, Epistemology, Practice, and the Responsibility of Visual Language. You can go to the next slide, Keith. And so I just, I think of myself as just a relative, but some of the things that I do is a curator, and really focus on community curation practices. I guess I'm a academic or scholar, and then a Lakota creative, and a really central Lakota, a Lakota visual language, Lakota community-based curation, and thinking about creativity as kinship. And everything in relationship to land, family and community. And I carry a lot of teachings from my community, the elders in my family, all the artists that I've had the opportunity to work with, visit with, spend time with, go to class with, and then the students that I work with now. I also adjunct at the Institute of American Indian Arts in the Museum Studies Department. And so I carry all of these teachings with me, and they're all really with a grounding in Lakota-ness. And so all of this really informs how I approach design as a practice of being a good relative. And as I wrote my dissertation and the things that I really I struggled a lot in Western academia. I had one of my committee chairs tell me, not committee chairs, committee members tell me that he needed to fix my thinking, because we really butted heads a lot about how I was writing my dissertation and then the needs for Western academic rigor. And so I think that we can have both. We can have Lakota academic rigor and Western academic rigor. But he didn't think that. So he wanted to fix my thinking. And so I really worked really hard to maintain my Lakota-ness and ground the research and practice that I was doing in my dissertation in the principle of Madakyu Oyasin, and how relationship is a huge responsibility. So everything I do, whether it's curation, community programming, or research, or teaching, comes from this place of relationship and not separation. And thinking, and I'm discussing today, trying to think about design as not just visual language, but also how we work in the world too, as Lakota people. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, that one. Thanks. So I really think of Lakota designs carry knowledge, right? It teaches us and it instructs us. And I think in some way it protects us, and it's how we read the world and how we make ourselves visible in it. So in both my research and curatorial work, I approach Lakota design as an epistemology, as a way of knowing and being. And so I really think of this visual language isn't separated from how we understand our histories, our values, or our relationships. And so I believe design is knowing, right? Knowing that Lakota visual forms are systems that are being held in the colors and the geometry and the repetition and the symmetry that Lakota design has. And this can happen in not only this, like when we're creating work, but in the way that we lay out exhibitions, in the way that we interact with community, and the way that we design programs. And so using patterns, stories, protocols, and responsibilities, we're able to carry design in this area of knowing, in this epistemology. I recently wrote an essay for Deani Whitehawk's new exhibition that's coming. So it's going to be in her catalog, her exhibition catalog at the Walker. But I wrote about her piece titled "Listen," and one of the things that I really wanted to emphasize in Diani's work, but that design is not static, right? It's relational and rooted in sound and movement and presence as well, right? And there are these things like the capenomy, this kind of swirl and reflection that is really how we engage with this like nonlinear path of design, and that is really, you can see and tell who is Lakota or Oteti Shakwi by their design and the way that they carry and move through the world, themselves through the world. And I wanted to this piece on this slide is, oh, can you go back up to the other one? Sorry. So this slide, this piece is a piece I did for my mom. It's of her grandma, and my mom really remembers her grandma, my great grandma, wearing these calico dresses, and so I took this picture of her, my mom, this is my mom's favorite picture of her grandma, and I took the picture and then I beaded the kind of calico design on the piece and then gave it to her for Christmas. It's a Christmas gift for her. But just wanting to show this grounding and like that, my great grandma, the way that she moved through the world, and the way that she dressed and the things that she wore and the way that she spoke and probably interacted with people was always Lakota, which is Lakota design. Okay, so you can go to the porcupine piece, yeah. So thinking about design and practice, and I really think about designs as a way of shaping space, for the artists and for stories from community and kind of a place of truth telling. And during my writing of my dissertation, I created or developed what I call community kinship circles, or a community kinship practice, and it's a framework that kind of guides how I curate and design programs with community. And it's based on Margaret Kovach's sharing circles. But one of the things I wanted to move away from is that this idea that sacredness is separate from everyday practices. And so I think about these community kinship circles, not necessarily as a sacred place, but as an everyday place where you can, and it's kind of how I think about Lakota design and Lakota way of being, is that sacredness is an everyday thing. So being here today is sacred, right? Driving to work is sacred, right? So everything is sacred because living is sacred. And so trying to not center this idea of sacredness, because I think it's been co-opted by religion. And so thinking about the everyday and so the community kinship practice or community kinship circles that I developed during my dissertation work was this, how do we work together in an everyday way to curate and to create programming? And so some of this work comes out in the things that we do at Racing Magpie, like our winter camp. And we're starting to work on a community archiving lab, where we're not going to necessarily be a collecting institution, but a place where community can come and learn how to archive their own things for their families. Our artists can come and archive their own work. And so designing the way that we work as for community and with community, and not about community or to hold to like hoard things from community. So the designing Lakota design in practice for me is not like imposing a vision, but more about thinking about listening and reflecting and building something collectively in the way that Lakota visual language does in terms of the symmetry and this kind of language. And I think Sadie, you'll probably hear from her to say this, but I think what she calls this like a grammar in the way that we communicate. Continuing this idea of the community kinship circles where knowledge is co-constructed together in the way that design, visual designs are co-constructed, and that you need different parts of design, just same way that you need different parts of community to create something whole. So creating a space for a collective voice in the same, the same way as Lakota visual design. Yeah, so like creativity is not an act of making, but an act of remembering, right? Okay, so you can go to the next slide. No, the one with Racing Magpie on it. Can you go back to the Racing Magpie? No, okay. Oh, okay. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about Racing Magpie and thinking about supporting artists, and about holding the responsibility that comes with the communities and artists' stories, their labor, and their vision. And I believe that design includes the building structures that allow artists to thrive through mentorship, residencies, studios, even like emotional and cultural support. I think, those are all the things that we try to do at Racing Magpie, is provide a space that, again, is this co-construction of space for artists to thrive and feel like there's a place for them. And and one of the things that we try to do at Racing Magpie is work from this place of being a good relative, and thinking about kinship in action, and supporting artists, not with just like space, but with like administrative work and a space to even just come and visit or host things like that's happening today. And so thinking about this as like relational design. Okay, we can go to the next slide, and I think, yeah, I'm almost done. So the next part is like thinking about design as becoming, right? And thinking about the future in terms of like kinship. And so building futures that build through relationship, and not, and yeah, just thinking about kinship, and thinking about that design is not only what we make, but what it's going to become when it's being made, and the process of making together, right? That's part of design too. And so thinking about the future and kinship, and that it's not only knowing, but it's part of the unknown and this kind of mysterious part when we design, that sometimes you're not exactly sure about the outcome, because things can always move or reflect differently. And so I think some of the work that I'm doing, thinking about the future, is the community archiving lab, some adding more studios and gallery space at Racing Magpie. And I'm also been working with Clementine, my sister, and Laylee Long Soldier we're thinking about a Lakota art college that focuses on Lakota visual art and Lakota like Laylee calls it language arts, but like the writing as Lakota people, right? So writing poetry and fiction, and what does that look like? And so we've been working on this college and are hoping to in the next couple years have our first like process of that. And so designing the college in a Lakota way. Again, with this repetition and reflection and the co-creation. Okay, so I just have one more slide that's like a thank you. I'm only going to be on until 11, so I apologize to the other panelists for not being able to stay on for the whole time, but I'm also part of the South Dakota Arts Council, and we have our grant review meetings today. And so I'm going to be, I'm chairing one of the grant reviews. So I will miss a couple of your presentations, and I'm really sorry because I really would love to hear you speak. And I hope that I wasn't too far off the mark, Keith, and what you were hoping with Lakota design. So thanks everybody for listening to me ramble and through all my nervousness.
Everybody, please give a warm applause, some appreciation and love to our relative Mary Bordeaux. Such incredible work, Mary. Thank you again for your time, your generosity of sharing with us, because we know you're busy today, and you can always just say the heck with the chairing the panel or the selection. Just kidding. No, don't do that. Yeah. Well, everybody, please, when you can, make an attempt to go and visit Mary at Racing Magpie at some time and see all the wonderful work, and then have a good conversation with more of this design, how it's at the heart of just being a good relative. And really, really great. Thank you again, Mary. We're going to move on to the next panelist, who I know also might be kind of having a little bit of a squeeze in scheduling today, but it's another great voice, and we're really happy to have Molina Tubles Parker join us today. So Molina, when you're ready, you can take it away.
Thank you, Keith. I didn't realize everyone could see what everyone was doing, but anyway, I wasn't nervous until Mary said she was nervous, and so trying to work out those nerves. But my name is Molina Tubles. I live in Red Shirt, South Dakota, which is on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I'm Oglala, Lakota, Northern Cheyenne. I live out here with my husband, Brian, and my daughter, Bobby, and just down the road from my mom. So we stay busy. My daughter keeps us busy with all of her activities. And in between all that, I do my art. I grew up in a house of artists. I grew up with my mother, my aunt, cousin, and brother, and we're all artists in some way. And so my house was always filled with people beading, painting, playing music, learning instruments, a very loud and fun household. I think something that was really great for me coming up in an environment like that is it formed this very broad opinion of what art is, and especially what Native art is. And I feel like Lakota art, anything we do is Lakota art. All of the designs I make are just a cultural continuum of those who came before me. On this picture here, it's a big net piece I created for the Red Cloud Indian Art Show's 49th year. I named it Say What after this really cool beatboxer I'd met at the Institute of American Indian Arts when I went there in around 2009. She's this fantastic beatboxer, and after I made this piece, I couldn't figure out what to name it, and her name came to mind because I was just so blown away by her immense talent. Anyway, my grandmother was known for this beautiful embroidery work that she used to do, and this was shortly after my grandmother had died, and I find that art is a way to, or working with my hands is a way to honor those that came before us. And even though I know how to embroider and she taught me, I wanted to bead some embroidery of some flowers that she had printed on some tea towels. And so the beadwork is done in like these really tiny beads, these size 16s. And so this embroidery is like almost a copy of work that she had done before. And you could see on the collar piece, there's buffalo tracks going up either side. And that's to represent my name, two bulls, or in Lakota, Tatanka Nupa, which means two buffaloes. And this mimics the style of collars that we wear when we dance traditional. I didn't do a fully beaded piece front and back because I wanted it to be a little more modern. I still included dentilia shells, which we still use in a lot of our regalia to this day. And I believe this was purchased by Oglala Lakota Museum in Chamberlain, is currently in their permanent collection. So that's just a little history behind how I designed this. And even though it doesn't scream like Lakota, right, with the geometrics and whatnot, it is still Lakota because I made it and because it's inherently native. You can go ahead and go on to the next screen. This was a cuff I created for a governor's award show, I believe about 10, I don't know how many years ago. Anyway, it's got a very distinctly Lakota design on the band. Several different books would say different things. To me, this represents a horse, maybe one that went into battle. And this little tiny buffalo design you see here at the end of the cuff was something that my brother and I actually came up with. I asked him for a buffalo design, and this is what he came up with, and that I've used in several of my pieces since then. I find that since I do come from the two bulls Tioshpaye, that I find myself using a lot of buffalo designs, especially the vertebrae or the hoof prints. I feel like in a way I have a strong affinity to those designs because of our name and how I grew up. And I guess a little more history into how I came to design work is I grew up as a fancy shawl dancer, and coming up in the powwow circle, you see a lot of different designs, and you can clearly tell what, like Mary said, what tribe you're from just by the design work that appears on your regalia. And so I take a lot of those colors and the designs and I implement them into some of my work. Maybe it's not the way you would think. One thing I learned when I went to art school in Santa Fe at the Institute of American Indian Arts is that there were some assignments where we had to copy master's works, and it was so easy to take what you could see. Somebody had already demystified it for you, and you just basically copy it. And I realized then that was not something I was ever interested in. I really enjoy challenging myself to create something that's different and that would have my stamp on it. And I think that's something that maybe is sometimes left out of the conversation is in this modern world, how do we keep going with that? How do we build on those designs? How do we put our stamp out there to show like, oh, that's distinctly that person's work, but it's clearly with the Lakota-centric design work. And you can go ahead and go on to the next slide here. These are brain tanned, smoked moccasins I made actually for Mary when she graduated with her doctorate this past year. I wanted to play on the Great Race, which is what Racing Magpie is named after. And I really love the work that they do at Racing Magpie and all the support that they give to other Native artists. And so you could see that checkers, which were traditionally considered a tripe design, but I also wanted to include that as like the flags on the Indy 500 or whatever race you could think of, along with the buffalo vertebrae design, the turquoise triangles that go up the side. And what I've discovered in the research I've done on this design is actually featured in other Native people's design work. On the West Coast in California, I believe it's a fish design. And then it's another design in Hawaiian culture, and other islanders have this same design work. And I find that so interesting that even though we could be so far apart, even separated by oceans, that we still have similar designs within our Lakota symbology. But you could also see the buffalo there, and I wanted to honor her in that way because she's very strong to have gone through as much education as she did. And I was there to see her go and do her doctorate, and I was very proud of her. And I wanted to show her that too. Anyway, you can go ahead and go on to the next slide. This doll I actually made, and it's currently on display at Oyate Health Center in Rapid City, South Dakota. I started doll making shortly after my grandfather passed away. He passed away 3 years ago, and I couldn't bead anymore. Beading is such a muscle memory to me. I've been doing it for most of my life, and I wanted to challenge myself to do something different that would work a different part of my brain, so that I wasn't just like constantly thinking about the grief I was experiencing. Anyway, since this was going to be on display at Oyate Health for future generations to see, I make these dolls in a way that like this is how I would want to dress. These are the accessories that I would want. But I also play on like her hair. She's a buffalo woman, right? She's got wool hair, and I wanted to give her a big perm like a lot of my aunties had in the 80s and 90s, and maybe some today. I really love the big hair and the way they would tease it. And a lot of aunties wore a barrette similar to that. And the earrings are an original design by me with the dentellion shells and the hand-painted rawhide at the top. And the buffalo vertebrae design you could see on her bag there as well. I seem to use that a lot. But I did a lot of research before I made this doll, and most of my dolls have faces. But I wanted young people who see this in the future, or even people now, to imagine that this is them. I don't make no-face dolls, like I said, but I wanted them to be able to picture themselves in this person and to see the strength and the way she holds herself upright. Those are all very clear design design ideas that I took to show pride in our people and our women and how we honor them. The designs on her moccasins were free-formed, but the designs on her bag are very clearly taken from historical symbology. She's also wearing beaded cuffs. She's got everything that I would want if I were dancing still. Yeah, so I did a lot of research when it came into this. As Mary said, there was a lot of calico that was worn back when our grandmothers were coming up with the flower sack dresses and whatnot. With this one, I chose this plaid pattern because a lot of our women wore a lot of these dresses once we did get textiles. And so I thought that was really cool. And you can go ahead and scroll to the next doll. This one is currently on display at the Indiana University and was recently acquisitioned into their permanent collection. This is a very personal doll for me because she is donning a wardrobe that my grandmother had made for herself when she married my grandfather. I made sure to copy where she had the buttons and how the collar is, the color of the shirt, and then I just kind of freeformed the rest of her. My grandma was known for wearing scarves around her neck and her hair, and so in this doll I did both. She's also wearing earrings that I designed that I call the Cleopatra. When I went to school at IAIA, I had a professor named Mark Herndon who was really into Egyptian jewelry. And so he inspired me to really look at Egyptian jewelry and see how it was made and the colors that they used. And I saw earrings similar to this, but I wanted to make them look more Lakota. So this is what I came up with. And this is what I was talking about with the cultural continuum, how our work can expand also by seeing what people from other cultures do. And it wasn't a blatant ripoff because I did make it my own. Yeah, so this doll looks like my grandmother. She's wearing a heart belt because I love her. And you can see on her little knife sheath here that she's got horse hoof designs along with the stars. She was known to ride horse every day of her life while she was growing up. She even knew how to manage a team of horses. Very much a horsewoman, so I wanted to include that on her outfit. And the stars indicating that she's in the stars now with my grandfather, those two stars right by her knife. And she was also known for how fast she could process wild game, and she liked to pick turnips, which you could see in her hand here. She's holding a Team braid. So again, my dolls don't look like what you would see in the collections, but she's clearly very Lakota. She's got, Lakota imagery on her. She's got the Team that she just dug. And I find it exciting to push the envelope and not create things that other people have done before. And I believe, was this the last slide, Keith? It is. I know I'm a little early. I think I talked a little fast. Can I ask if anyone has questions, or what could we do?
Sure. No, we could take 10 minutes of questions if you like.
Okay.
Is there any questions from the audience? Anybody want to share? Maybe we could even squeeze in Mary as well, since I know Mary will have to be jumping off soon too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so let me check the chat. And you could use the chat too, everybody, if you want to say some messages. But if anybody would like to unmute themselves, you're free to ask a question at this moment.
Could I ask a question?
Go for it.
How do you specifically choose to make decisions about what materials and techniques you use for your art?
For me, I guess it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm getting ready for a show, or if I'm making something for my daughter, I guess, or for something she needs to have done in her regalia. That's how I decide what I want it to do. Currently, I'm working on a piece for a show that I kept dreaming about, and it's kind of weird, but it's a gal riding a buffalo, and I won't say too much more about it, but I decided that I wanted to try working with more wire and textile and clay. It just depends. Sometimes I just throw everything in the pot and see what works.
Do you see Sadie's question?
Oh,
Molina, she said, what's that work behind you?
oh. That work behind me, I have some Topaz Jones paintings, Danny McCoy, and Dwayne Manuel, all people that we went to IA with or lived in Santa Fe and hung out with.
Any other questions? There's a question from Dwayne Manuel. I'll read it for you guys. I feel though through the pandemic, a lot of Indigenous people have went back to the arts. Where do you see Lakota art in the future?
That's a good question. Mary, do you want to take that one?
I think that Lakota art will continue to grow and stay grounded in Lakota-ness. I don't think Lakota people ever stop creating, and that they always just adapt to what's in front of them. And that creativity is a part of, because creativity is a part of who we are and it's a part of our epistemology, right? It's a part of how we know what we know. Creativity is rooted in all of our ceremonies and it's rooted in our language and the way that we speak, that I think that it will just continue to grow and advance the way that it has through time already.
What are your thoughts, Molina?
I agree. I also want to see, I have a young artist in my house right now, and I love to see the way her mind works. She's already dreaming about being in film and working on like these grand paintings and things. I think as long as we keep the door open for these young ones behind us, the sky's the limit. I'd like to see us in so many different kinds of diverse art forms other than just painting in the typical native art scene.
Thank you both. Well, I just want to mention too that I know that all of you panelists, and Melina, you mentioned this a little bit more, but you all went through arts education. You all went to the prestigious Institute of American Indian Arts. And so I think that that's really another good thought as far as thinking into the future, as far as what is education. And then really the exciting endeavor that Mary, Laylee, and Clementine are going with bringing that back to the homelands, so that some don't have to travel too far to go off and, get more intensive kind of opportunity to maybe develop or strengthen or even question what is discipline of Lakota arts, and maybe just reverting back to what's natural. So I'm really interested to hear more about your guys' thoughts with how you guys all went to school. There's a couple more questions. Sunrose is asking, what shows or exhibitions or maybe anything are you guys doing next? Start with Molina first, huh?
Sure. I always like to do the Red Cloud Art Show because it's local and I really enjoy the space and the people and the other artists that we participate with. And then I've heard that Northern Plains is coming back, so I hope to try to do that one again. But yeah, that's about it.
That's not true, Molina. We're doing an exhibit.
Oh yes, and then I'm doing an exhibit with Mary, Clementine, and Laylee and Gracie.
Yeah. So I'm working with Laylee, Clementine, Molina, and Gracie Horn. So Laylee Long Soldier, Clementine Bordeaux, and Molina. And we're working on an exhibition that will open in July at Racing Magpie. And just together we're exploring the Lakota concept of ikje and what does that mean, and especially thinking about what does that mean to women, because Lakota people always have the saying of ikje wichasha, right? And so is that only directed at men, and how does it relate to women, and how does it also relate to creativity? And anyway, so we've been working on that for a couple of years, doing the community kinship circles, to develop ideas and thoughts about IKJ. And so we're looking forward to the opening in July at Racing Magpie.
Exciting. No, I'm looking forward to that. And that actually leads into the next question that Ray is asking, Ray Janice. Can you tell us both your experiences and perspectives in the art world, being Lakota women and creating a huge impact in the community?
It's a good question, Ray. I think it's hard for us as women sometimes, especially women who do what's considered like craft work. I think a lot of our work isn't taken seriously just because what we do is considered adornment or clothing or whatever. And I would like to see that change. I want to see a bigger shift in how we view what women's work is. And I see that happening slowly but surely, thanks to other people who see the importance in our work.
So I have 1 minute and then I have to run. I just want to say I have a little bit different perspective. I think that Lakota women, I think women in general, but Lakota women I can speak to specifically, are the ones that are moving community and using creative practices to do it, and that they are really the ones that ground community and keep community together and moving forward, and they're using their creative practices to do that. And that it's just the Western world that makes it hard for Lakota women to be seen. But I think that Lakota women are seen in our communities, and they're the ones that use Lakota design, right? Both in the formation of how community works together and the formation of that visual language, to keep things moving and going, right? They're really the ones that are holding it all. It's just the Western world that sees us in a not like prominent way. But, okay, so now I'm gonna be late for my meeting. I gotta go. Thank you so much, Keith, for
Mary.
inviting
Everybody,
me.
please give a round of applause to Mary and Molina. These are some great relatives here. We were very fortunate to hear their voices and see the love before you have to jump off. Yeah, the impact and the significance and really the compassion of our female relatives within our Lakota communities and structures of society, and how does that relate to design? That was something that was in my mind when I was thinking about how we can then curate such a panel. And so I really did think about each of these individuals with strong thought and really good heart. And I know that they were, kind of the first thought. And so I'm very thankful that they all agreed to do this panel. And I know that there's many other relatives who aren't, being featured today, but we're not discounting anybody or thinking less that anybody else's work within design is nothing that represents and helps nourish our culture. It's really just, it's hard to be selective. But I really wanted to try to pull these relatives together because I felt like they do represent a really strong presence. They're in a moment of their continuum that is really dynamic, and they have such I think a heart and a really like a gift for what they're doing that's beyond just technique or even just what might be the individualism behind the artist. That they really do have, I think, a purpose and maybe a responsibility that they're carrying forward in the way that they're doing their design work, but also just their expression and creativity overall. And so with that, I'd like to move on to our next relative, who's really another pleasure to bring into this group. Sunrose, Iron Shell. Sunrose, it's great to have you here. Sunrose is a relative from both areas, Oglala and Sicangu lands. And so it's nice to extend our invitations beyond just only the Oglala boundaries, but really how do we encompass all of our Lakota homelands. And so we're going to hear a strong voice now. Sunrose, you're ready. Take it away.
Hello, and if we could just let me talk for 3 minutes before we put on the images.
Sure.
So hello, Mdaku Yepi, Tate, Yaundopa, Najiwian, Denver, Edwati, and Sichangu, Makoche, and Matahan. I applied for the artist residency at Oglala Art Space, and there was a question in there and it asked, like, prove your Oglala descendancy. And come to find out, it's not even on my CIB or on my anything. And my dad, he disenrolled in the 70s with Dennis Banks when they were going to do the Lakota Republic. And so I have, my lineage, it's just not on paper, which is so weird that OLC, this art space made me find that out. But I am a ledger artist, and I went to IAIA as well in 2012, and I graduated with my museum studies degree. I really wanted to be in the NAGPRA and DIPO, and art kind of just has been my natural thing to do. Growing up, I was always told by my Lakota aunties and female relatives that sewing, beading, quilling, that's all regular stuff. So what is it different about you, your perspective and your artistry that you can bring towards the people? And when we talk about this Lakota design, so I just wrote a few things down of what it means to me. And like first and foremost, it's land-based. So it's Lakota design that's a human geographical experience in the land. A lot of my work is based off of parfleche boxes or the rawhide containers, because of course that's a French word. And that rawhide containers are really a geometrical simplification of the worldview. So like the square of the parfleche is the horizon line when we're out there looking on the prairie. And so all these little things that are given to us by being out on the prairie, as opposed to our Dakota relatives who are in the woodlands area. So maybe like our stuff might be more floral, but at some point we had to cross a river to become Tetonga. And I live right now in Sioux City, so I'm kind of crossing that river all the time. And I found the area, this location where the Sichangus actually got their name. So we were the Chanku Troela, when we always had a blue ring at the end of our skirts. And then it changed to Sichangu. So right in Sioux City, Iowa, like I'm still around our same land-based area. And I became a fashion designer when I had an internship at the Juvenile Detention Center. And I am a city Indian to heart. Like I'm from Denver. I was born and raised in Denver. I go back very often to the res every now and then. And one of my coming back, I was at the Juvenile Detention Center. I was at a ceremony and somebody found out I was in college, that I didn't have no kids, and I was sober. And just based off of those three things, they wanted me to come talk at the JDC. And I was like, okay, what do I talk about? Well, I like fashion, so I just made this presentation of all the native fashion that was happening at the time. And that was in 2008. And really, in my mind, I remember the practices of what we do as Lakota women in the shirt wearers. So we would make shirts. Or I was also told too that we would take the hair behind our ear, this kind of long hair, and cut it off and tie that onto a shirt. So then that man was literally carrying the weight of the community, of the tuaje, and then he became a shirt wearer. And as I reflect in modern day society, we don't do that at all. We are not creating shirts or creating clothing to honor our male relatives as much as we need to. And so I initially wanted to become a fashion designer so I could do that for my young men. So I could create like bomber jackets or hoodies. And instead of it being, gangster, because I'm also from that era of like the 80s gangster rap that came out. And of course, we in the cities didn't want to have anything to do with country or cowboy. So the extreme opposite of that was like the rap, and it showed like the resistance. So in my fashion, the music, it's always right there. So I use a lot of hip hop that talks about like resistance, movement, stuff like that. And I wanted to make jackets that would have little like warrior status sayings so that that young man would put that jacket on and feel different about himself and feel a little bit better and feel proud to be Lakota. Because in those days, it wasn't too proud. And then also being raised in the city, being Sunrose Iron Shell. Wow, you're Native American. I've never met a Native American before. So I took that and I ran with that. And I was okay, if I'm the first Indian you've ever met, I'm gonna be the bougiest one. So I just started like ever since my like 13 teenage days is when this really started. When, wow, you're Indian, I never met you. Do you live in a teepee? I'm like, no, I drive a car. I live in a condo, etc. Right? Being a modern day person. So then I wanted to make sure my clothing always identified me as an Indian in this Denver, Colorado, where millions of people, every time you walk out of your house, it's a fashion show and style. And so we can go ahead and move on to the images. This is my new collection that I just launched in June, so it'll be a year now. It is based off of my ledger drawings. So the textile, the fabric, is a picture of one of my ledger drawings on antique paper. And then I'm using the computer program to, what is the word? Kaleidoscope it, put it in a pattern so it fits like 55 by 55 inches of a scarf. So I also have parfleche earrings, elk parfleche hand-painted earrings with the dentillium and horsehair. And a part of my growing up, I always heard scary stories. I had the best critique ever. Like, I love critiques, be all for critiques. The best critique I ever had was that my stuff was too powwow. Oh, you're typical. Someone told me that at IA. Typical. That's typical Native American art. Powwow, very powwow. So I kind of just scratched everything that I was doing at the time. And I had to ask myself, what do I like? What am I a fan of? And I'm a fan of the horror stories, the Monagis and the Jichis and all of that. I will stand right next to all the uncles and listen to the stories. So all my life, I've heard stories of Deer Woman. And so in my collection, in my ledger art, I draw those stories. And this fashion show I had in October. So it was around Halloween. So I thought it would be really cool and really interesting to put Deer Woman on the runway. And so I got cosplay makeup artists to come in and do her face like a deer. And then I know that's not a deer antler, but it's elk antler. And while she was walking out on the runway, I told her, you go out there on the runway and you make sure you look at every Indian man in the eye. So it was almost like bringing our story of relationships, of respect, and like just bringing it into a modern day atmosphere. And the Deer Woman story I like to reference is from Joseph Marshall's book about the hunter, and because that's a pre-colonial story. All the stories that I heard from like first, second hand accounts are in the automobile, time, like she's hitchhiking. There's a car. And so we photoshopped this because I want it to look like she's mesmerizing because she's about to show you a mirage and show you everything that you could ever wish for. Perfect. Like all the parfleche boxes, everything, and lead you into her lodge so she can steal your soul. Okay, next one. And so this one is Dear Woman's Stolen Man. And this is a paper mask. It's a geo paper mask that I bought off the internet, and it had a pattern, so I had to cut them and put them all together. But I thought it'd be really cool to actually transform the model into something a little bit more spiritual. And so you don't even see the face now of the model, but there's another parfleche, parfleche design on ledger paper. And go ahead, go to the next one. And this is the same print, and it's got yellow rolling hills of the prairie. And I really like this shot because up her leg, you can really see the colors. And I call this one the Parfleche Dreams. So it's when you were cruising, through South Dakota, and we have all these really nice, cool rolling hills. In Iowa, Nebraska, and Kansas, everything is flat. There's something really magical about the prairie in South Dakota that just opens up into these really giant, epic sunsets that lead you to the starry night sky. And so this particular collection is called the Parfleche Dreams. And then she also has an otter, and then the dentilium earrings, and it's a scarf. So I'm also like a no-sew fashion designer, you could say, where it's a scarf and I'm just like pinning it around her. My grandmas, they always tell you to have a scarf. You never know when you're gonna need a skirt or need a shawl. And so I made these for the grandmas, but it doesn't translate like that. And we'll go to the next one. And here's another Dear Woman's Kept Man. Now I'm getting nervous. Okay, and so we have a duffel bag because of the parfleche boxes, the rawhide containers. So I always wanted to do some kind of duffel bag. This particular piece is hanging at the Oyate Health Center on the second floor, the original piece, and then I'm taking it, digitizing it, and manipulating it to a bigger piece. And we'll go to the next. This is, I also wanted to show some of my older work for people who may not know. This is a elk rawhide corset that I fabricated from scratch, and I also dyed the fabric purple and hand painted, and I won an award at Sawaya Indian Market, honorable mention ribbon on 2012. And the shoes are also quill work and rawhide on the high heel, and then her earrings as well. One thing that really breaks stereotypes, because it's fashion, it's vain, it's like vanity, we're doing it to look good, but for me, I do it to count coup. If this makes sense, like, you follow with me here. Because when you show up to a space, people have these unconscious bias about you. So a lot of times I will show up to some fashion shows, and the makeup and hair people will be non-native. And of course, my fashion line is called Warrior Status, or hashtag Stay Warrior Status. And so it comes with all these stereotypes. So when I show up into spaces, the makeup and hair people automatically assume that I want braids or 2 braids, French braids, and then they'll pop up on their phone and be like, okay, so here's what I was thinking for the makeup, and it'll be the fake headdress, war paint, and so right away I gotta be like, no, I'm like offended, like I am offended now, because when I show up, I want to be like rockabilly, pinup, hairstyle, kind of like that, and I just completely blow their mind. So in this one, she has the pinup hairstyle, and that day I just smash that stereotype. of what they wanted from me, and I gave them something new. And then it brings us into the modern day. So now in their mind, instead of being stuck in braids, which braids are awesome, it's our thing, but we don't have to be there. We can be fluid and move all the way around. So we'll go to the next slide. And then this one is the rawhide container, the parfleche purse, matching necklace and earrings. And then this is also a canvas that I hand painted and then fabricated into a skirt. So in honor of the ghost dance dresses when we didn't have hides, like we're still there, like we're still not 100 back to having all our resources back and being able to have hides to make dresses. Like a hide dress is such a luxurious thing right now. And so in honor of the ghost dance dresses and their lack of hides, I'm using canvas to hand paint all of my textiles and designs, and then fabricating the skirt. So that's in honor of the ghost dances. Now, I don't know, maybe I talk too fast too.
Amazing, amazing, Sunrose. Man, it's always awesome to see your work, and it's just even much more, awesome to hear you talk about it.
I will tell you one more story, and this is so the reason why I'm a fashion designer is because of JDC and the shirt wearers. That's what I really want to do. Like if I had the wand for $1 million, I'd totally have a fashion house, and all my stuff would be men's stuff, because I feel like we really need to uplift our young men. And I'm gonna name names here because my friends are here from IA. But this is what happened is we used to, in our college days, get all of our scholarships. And then if you get too much scholarships, you get a check, or if you live off campus, you get that check. And so me and No Sun and Big Man Dan and Jonah and some of the homegirls, we all went to a big old steakhouse with our school money, because everything was already paid. And it was some really, really fancy steakhouse. And the boys walked in front of us, and of course they got all their elk teeth earrings on and their jewelry on, and they look like really cool, like young men, and they have long hair. And of course, No Sun has like ridiculously long hair. And us girls went to the bathroom or whatever, and we came out, and the lady was already showing us to where we needed to sit. And in that restaurant was a bunch of non-melanated fools, the business types eating their dinner and stuff. And it is so interesting when you see Americans watch us. When they know that they see Indian men, and I only notice it really with Indian men. When they see Indian women, it's disarming. It's more palatable. But when they say Indian men, a little part of them like clutches their pearls, right? And so I remember this particular look that because she sat them down, and right next to our table was, typical Monopoly money looking man. And the look on his face of fear and all this, like you could see in his brain, he was just thinking, and it was just like that emoji that was just like exploding. And he was looking at No Sun and Dan and them like what? There's Indians here? There's Indians alive? Like what? Like I might lose my ranch. Like, I don't know what's going on in that thought process, but I knew then and there that we had just counted coup on his soul. And when I see people and they tell me that you're the first Native American I've ever met, you're counting coup on their soul, because now they walk away from you forever changed. And if that ain't modern day counting coup, then I don't know what is, because then they're able to tell that story and say, no, Indians exist. I met one with purple hair. She said she was a unicorn. Like, and then that stereotype is broken. So the reason why I'm a fashion designer is so I can count coup on the monopoly money Americans because they have a guilt there. And there's a guilt that I need to poke so we can move past the guilt so I can get some land back and some honor the treaty back. And I always say, don't apologize to me unless it comes with some land deeds and some gold bricks. And I'll leave you at that. Check my website out.
If you guys want to share any of your websites, social media, things like that in the chat, feel free to, please. That way people can maybe find more of your work. And thank you again, Sunrose. Really, really always appreciate our relatives who are out there doing things, not just only for your being here today, but like you're saying, you know, telling us your story of what your purpose is, what you're doing out there as a Lakota artist, but even just Lakota, you know, or whoever, human being as well too. But I know your work is also powerful, and sometimes there's this we can't be everywhere, right, to speak for our artwork, but the work will then resonate and continue to count coup, like for you and your intention. But others, I think, will probably have that similar kind of you know, perspective of what they see in their art and their abilities and what creativity means to them. You know, it's not just only to make a pretty item for aesthetic pleasure, but maybe it's again practical. It has a lot of heart in what it's made for in the first place, just like a lot of our work was when we think about it in the historical ancestral times. You know, but we're still doing that today. You know, there really is no change. We're just in these different surroundings is all. But we're also a little more fortunate because we do have maybe access to different media that our ancestors, our grandparents didn't have in their time. But I love your stories. And there'll be time for questions, everybody. We'll make some time at the end if you guys have questions to share with Sunrose or our next panelist, who I'll introduce now, and we'll get going with Sadie Redwing. Hi, Sadie. I've never met Sadie yet, but Sadie was recommended highly by Peter Strong and Mary. And so when I was able to see Sadie's work, I was really blown away. And I was like, when I read more about your statement, and especially a lot of the work that you're doing within academia and how you're really focusing on Lakota design, but even I think Dakota design as well, it was incredible. I think you're really setting a new precedent for where Lakota design is going. And that's awesome that you're here with us. Thank you so much for sharing your day with us and your voice. And so when you're ready, take it away. If you want me to jump right into the slides, I can.
Yeah, go ahead, jump into the slides. I'm getting the notification that my internet connection's low. So once the slides come up, I'll probably turn the camera off. But I was nervous too. But just listening to like Miriam, Molina, and Sunrose, man, just put me in the right spot because like I'm an IAIA alum too. And listening to them, man, I just feel like I'm at a table, drinking coffee, smoking a cigarette, and just catching up because seriously, like I haven't seen these ladies, these beautiful ladies on a panel like over a decade. So it's just, yeah, just really humbling that we can just be on a panel together. So thank you for bringing us together, just starting and into um,
Okay, Cindy, you might need to. Oh yeah, you have your camera off just because it was cutting a little in and out. But we'll try it again. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so just to I'll slow it down here, but hello everybody. My name is Sadie Redwing. My citizenship is Spirit Lake, Dakota, so it gets a little bit confusing sometimes because I'm also Cheyenne River, and my Cheyenne River side is the majority of what I know. So again, like it gets a little bit confusing, and I feel like a lot of folks don't have competency on citizenship just yet. But yeah, so I am enrolled in Spirit Lake, but I know more of my Cheyenne River side. But then also I carry a Oglala Lakota named Redwing. So there's it's a lot. I'm going down the whole history of that Red Wing side, but yeah, my grandfather is a Red Wing and adopted us, so I carry the Red Wing name very proud. So I am a graphic designer. I'm actually a PhD student at the University of Minnesota. I did go to IAIA as well, and I teach online classes for Arizona State University. So I'm going to plug in here that ASU is the first research institution that has a master's program in Indigenous design. So I'll put a link in if anyone wants to check that out. So I'm in the curriculum building, but specifically graphic design. So when I was at IAI, we probably had about seven of us that were in the graphic design program. But again, I didn't leave IAI understanding what the difference was between being an artist and being a designer. And knowing that this is more of an art panel, I'll speak more some of my artwork. But I have a slide that explains it too. I teach graphic design at a very novice level, and I'm glad Sunrose made the comment of saying is that we use lands. So a lot of the work that I do is really bringing in, we call TEK, traditional ecological knowledge, and how can we use TEK as a graphic designer? So it'll make a little bit more sense, but just to get going on the slides here. So I left um, North Carolina State University 2016. I got that master's degree in graphic design, and I literally like grabbed my paper and then headed in the car and headed to Standing Rock. Um, so I feel like this piece that is seen on the screen right now is probably my first introduction of being, I guess, into my professional track as a graphic designer. So one thing that I noticed when I went to Standing Rock at that time was I didn't see a lot of Lakota language, like on the flyer, or not the flyers, but like banners. I saw more, to be honest, I saw more Anishinaabe visual languages, and I was kind of like, like we're here, in North Dakota, South Dakota, and like I'm not seeing like just a lot of that visual language. So I did this piece, and piece was made for Instagram originally, put some hashtags on it, and man, like it caught on. And I like this piece because it shows a really basics of like semiotics. So semiotics, symbols, icons, kind of showing the difference. Or in the Lakota visual language, there's a strong, we use both icons, which we saw in art. So icons is like an image or a sign that looks exactly like something. A symbol doesn't necessarily look like something, but so we use both. So like just for example, like Molina's beadwork, she has icons of buffalo because they look just like buffalo, but then she might have the tracks in the triangle formation. Those might be symbols because they don't look exactly like a buffalo track. So symbols and icons, like that's our forte in our work here. So, but I like this piece because the Indigenous Peoples Power Project, they brought a whole camp, like 300 protesters, all trained. They set up an art camp and they made banners. So they made adjustments to my piece to fit a screen print sheet. But man, this is my first time ever getting recognition on some type of artwork that is, for a movement like at Standing Rock against the pipeline. But then also like getting to see like how powerful graphic design is when it comes to visually communicating something that you're standing for. So I do love this piece, and you can go to the next slide, Keith, on here. So after this piece, Dallas Goldtooth asked me if I could do a mini Witrozani piece. I'm sharing this piece. This again go through because just I think again just a means of wanting to create banners as a whole thing. And I'm not the person that actually has like a printing studio. Like I really don't know how to screen print and stuff like that, but I'm able to make the vector files for those printing. But I'm sharing this piece because when I had that Standing Rock piece or the mini Wichoni piece, I got a lot of people not they weren't upset, but they were asking me about the spelling. I think when we talk about how does the spell the Lakota or Dakota language and the importance of needing more graphic designers who are trained in language writing, it's kind of difficult because when you download that Lakota dictionary, you only get like 5 fonts. Or like we see like social media posts, there's always the nasal N or the nasal H that doesn't match the other fonts. So the graphic designer, we have to make all those. And it's kind of hard when they got a few graphic designers and, we want to use better fonts. We want to use better, text styles, but also understand like we got to make them. But then also, and I'll just make this last point. We can go to the next slide. Like we're not consistent in our spelling, particularly in our different generations. Like my grandma's dictionary has different spelling than my dad's dictionary, and my dad's dictionary has different spelling than my dictionary. So we're not consistent on spelling. So it gets kind of challenging when we get into, let's say, Lakota language learning app, and we're still trying to figure out spelling. But, again, as we move forward into the future, we get some more graphic designers who can build a bit better, bigger design teams. I feel like we can get more fonts made so we can have some greater templates when it comes to making more flyers and stuff for events. But we're moving there. That's so beautiful. Like we're moving in that direction. So this piece that you're seeing right here, I use this in my classroom to explain the difference between symbols and icons and indexes. So when you take a graphic design class, one of your first things you're going to learn is about semiotics. So what I like about this piece is it's a combination of all. But again, like I'm Lakota and Dakota, so we got some floral, we got some of the symmetric work. So I try to combine some idea, just some ideas on here. So what your piece that you're looking at is the Peteoyate, the Buffalo Nation will rise again. And all it's basically saying, and I wish I had another slide that kind of gives an example, is that we need the buffalo to keep the prairie alive. So in the corners of the buffalo, or in the corners are like little ledger style buffaloes, and then the rays of sun and the sun. But the buffalo feet and buffalo like tilling the soil, and you need some sun. The one element I didn't put in here was like rain, but it's going to make those flowers grow. So if you can kind of see, like there's little flowers in the corners too that they're going to pop out in the ground, and they're going to join in that circle with the dragonflies and all that. But it's just basically like saying, it's like, hey, if we want to keep this prairie alive, we want to keep this ecosystem alive, the buffalo is really important. But again, I can share links to more information on this work being shared here. But yeah, again, like so those little the ledger buffaloes in the corner, I would consider those more icons because when you look at them, you can tell that, oh, okay, that's a buffalo. But then when you look at some of more of like some of the squares or triangles or the conventions, the more like the Lakota like beadwork or symbolism, like you may not make out that something might represent a hill, or you may not make out that something might be representing like the Black Hills or something. So those would be categorized as symbols. We got to learn, like we can't just look at them and immediately know exactly what they are. But again, as a graphic design educator, just bringing a word like icon or symbol into explaining our visual language is really what I'm trying to get like novice or just, it does not just Lakota, but all Indigenous students to kind of get like just better terminology so they can explain their work better. And go to the next slide. So, I would consider this a piece of artwork here. So as artists, I feel artists have a freedom to really express themselves. As a designer, I may not have that same freedom of expression because I have a target audience. I got to design something specific to someone else. So I like this piece because this piece kind of speaks a little bit more of, like I like to go play video lottery, but and I think Sunrose mentioned it too, kind of combining like just contemporary things, even if it's humorous or even if it's a little bit more, like subculture related. And just kind of like bringing our little influence into it. So what I would like to do with this piece, like I want to make stickers of it, and I want to put this on t-shirts. I want to sell, I don't necessarily want to sell, I want to give away, but I'm kind of nervous about South Dakota getting me on a copyright on here. But yeah, just a little bit humorous, but then a little bit like, yeah, I grew up in that same early 90s where, I might have been sitting in the car while the aunties and grandmas were gambling or something. So just kind of paying homage to, yeah, I grew up in maybe places where video lottery was present. And that is something that yeah, I'm proud of, and and like I just came from Minneapolis, and I'm sitting here in Fort Pierre right now, and yeah, I might go try 5 later. Just kidding, but yeah, I like to do this type of work, just immersing, not necessarily pop culture. I don't think a lot of folks, the newer generations probably may not recognize this style of machine anymore, but yeah, just trying to pay homage to my folks, and yeah, if you can add a little bit of like maybe an inside joke on that. So this piece right here, this last piece, man, this is a really personal piece. This is a practice piece when I went to NC State, and I think Mary mentioned this at the beginning, where it's a little bit hard trying to be in academics and really explain what you're trying to do, and the writing is really hard. And in one time at NC State, we got this assignment called the visual essay. And in my head, I'm like, okay, well, it's going to be an essay, but it's got to be visual. So if I was going to write an essay and kind of like, what's my experience like? In how can I do that in a formation where it combines both Dakota floral and Lakota beadwork? And this is what came out. And again, I think all the ladies mentioned that it just kind of comes to you, and just kind of like using the convention, using those conventions of everything maybe start in the center of the universe or whatever, and kind of expands out. I do, and again, I'll put a link so that folks can read a little bit more because I don't have the time to explain everything, but just kind of like my journey and kind of using some of these symbols to represent more important people in my life, where I grew up within South Dakota and central South Dakota, around within the Wat, or or just the whole state actually. Been all over, but the what I want to say about this piece too is I didn't anticipate it for it to be as again, like I did it as a homework assignment, and this is probably the more iconic pieces that a lot of people are really interested in seeing. And what I'm really humbled about, and I'm actually, you guys are going to be the first persons to hear this, is that this piece is going to MoMA. So I'm very like I kind of get emotional about it as I'm sitting here thinking about it. But to have this piece be representative of my life and my journey as through my journey at NC State, and just trying to write something academic, but use our form of documentation, our form of semiotics, and our form of record keeping. I thought this is what came out of it. And again, like if I could redo this over again, and with the more knowledge that I have now, it'd probably look a little bit more different. But it's like, and I feel like all the ladies said it too. It's like we're just trying. We had to start somewhere in order for us to improve, whether that comes with definitions or terminology or how we explain things like this, or how something might be interpreted. When you hear other stories and other families, how they might interpret like different ways of using symbolism and whatnot without exploiting anything. Yeah, so this piece came out, and I'll keep everybody updated, but it's going to MoMA, and in June on my birthday, Victory Day, June 25th and 26th, I'm gonna go to New York and go meet with the people. So I am very, and again, y'all the first ones to hear it. I haven't really told anybody. I told my grandma, but she doesn't know what MoMA is. So but yeah, that's the slides for me. And again, I'm so appreciative of just being on here with everybody in the panel, and I just can't wait to be in person, and want to go and check out the Lakota Art Day in person next year for sure. And yeah, thank you so much, Keith, for reaching out and inviting me to this panel.
Wow, that was also amazing. Semiotics, hey, you're talking my language now too. That's what I focused a lot of my graduate thesis on too, was the theory of semiotics. And so one of these days it'd be nice to have more of a deeper discussion and talk about some of that.
Yeah,
but man,
absolutely.
everybody, please give a round of applause. Give a round of applause for all the panelists, but also for Sunrose and Sadie. I mean, it's just been a great start to this Lakota Art Day. But it's not over yet. We're definitely not over yet. Let's make some room for some comments and some questions then, since we have time. I think it'd be great to hear from everybody. I'm sure there's questions. All right. Anybody want to use their voice? If you want to ask your question, you can unmute yourself and ask a question to any of the panelists. We only have three, I believe. We have Molina still here. We have Sunrose, and we also have Sadie. So any questions anybody wants to mute themselves for? I'm also happy to read them. If you guys want to put them in the chat, I'm happy to read them. I think we could also share comments. You can share some great encouraging words. Shannon, go for it.
Good morning, guys. Thank you so much. I'm in California, so it's still like 10:30 for me. But yeah, I just want to express gratitude for all of the stories that you guys shared today. I had an admittedly rough day yesterday sitting in conference talks that left me wanting to just throw everything out and go crawl into my garden and never come back out. So the humor and the liveliness and the joy and the rebellion that you guys brought today, like, helped pull me out of the garden and back, wanting to get back to work on my stuff. So yeah, thank you. I'm mixed race, Mexican, white, grew up in Southern California, also like 80s, 90s baby. And in like Chicano culture, we have our word is chingona, which is sort of like this fiery feminine power. And I just feel like I saw a lot of something very familiar today, with some fiery feminine power. And I just want to say thank you guys.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Shannon. Questions? And welcome in, Shannon, too. Welcome in for joining us from California. Questions?
I have a question, Keith.
Yes. Hi, Heidi. Go for it.
Hey, everyone. Just really quick, thank you, everyone, for your really enriching and powerful presentations. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to hear everyone and see how everyone's careers have really just taken off and they're constantly evolving. And, you know, how you're really just leaning into your cultural roots and your community and family as a source of constant inspiration. The question I have is for Sadie. I was recently at the opening of what's her name? Dr. Kite's exhibition on artificial intelligence. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your collaboration with Dr. Kite and sort of developing this sort of visual language. And I know that's something that you've worked on, and I think your presentation was very modest, to be fair. I think you're working on a lot of really cool things. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate on those types of collaborations.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. So Dr. Suzanne Kite, she's also she's in the realm of research, and I think she got her PhD up in Canada. When I was teaching at OCADU, we connected, and one thing that she reached out to me was this Lakota shape kit that I didn't get a chance to talk or share about. But she, again, just getting shapes into people's hands is kind of like just fighting that extinction clock. Is like we just need to get the shapes into anybody's hands. So in working with Suzanne, and she's really bringing in this concept of future trend technology of like where we might be going in the future. There was a question about the future earlier. So Dr. Kite, she actually does fine artwork. So what we talk about, particularly when it comes to protocoling and dreams, can be, personal or sacred or however. So just really thinking about how do you protocol? You want to maybe have some type of fine art. How would you say, like, not installation? It's kind of hard to explain when we don't have visuals right now to talk about, but just in thinking about Dr. Kite, she's working on how we can visually show dreams, but in a way where we're using Lakota visual language. What I like about this experience and this conversation is really the protocol and understanding is like we as Lakota, especially like here in Fort Pierre, my internet's not the best. Like I don't have the best access to technology, but I have my voice. But it might be vice versa to maybe a non-Indigenous person that might be collaborating on a project where they may have the technology, but they don't have the competency. So this is going to be a really interesting collaboration of Dr. Kite's work in having some type of I don't know if it's AI or VR, virtual reality or augmented reality device, but when thinking about how we can interpret a dream and it looks like it's Lakota and it doesn't, again, we're at the very beginning of this project. Dr. Kite, I just want to just give a shout out to her. She has her own center, her own research center in a small college that she works at in New York. And for her to have that center, have that grant opportunities where she's gonna, invite more and more Lakota artists and more Lakota researchers to find more funding, like that's powerful, I feel. So Yeah, so I can just feel it, like we're moving in that direction and we're getting better at at having a voice in research and kind of like what Sunrose said, if she's counting coup in fashion, then I'm gonna do it in design research and that future trend. So something to look out forward to. But yeah, she has a show at I think the MOCNA or down in Santa Fe, but definitely another project that's gonna be coming up in the future to share. Definitely we'll share with First People's Fund and Racing Magpie and OLA and everything. So super excited. Thanks, Heidi.
Sorry guys, I couldn't find my unmute button. There is so much that is great to hear, and these are some really exciting times now that we're looking into as far as where is design, not even just necessarily Lakota design, but now it's being, kind of related to all these different kind of identities, but also how it's being, I think, in a way, respectfully related to other identities. And I just want to circle back to the whole beginning of the idea for this panel is that me personally, I recognize the dimensions of our female relatives, the feminine, maybe if you want to say that, as being kind of a foundation to design for Lakota people. I know that there's a lot of men and a lot of male representation for how designs speak and communicate. But when we look at some of our more of our ancient, the oldest of our creation stories, we call them uhunkanka, these narratives that tell us of the beginnings of time for us as people, Lakota peoples. In these narratives, there are some of these moments where they present the first action or sequence of when design occurred. And it's an artistry, it's an expression, but it's really technical and skillful, but also very deliberate. It's what is it for? And the makers, the I guess entities behind those actions are sometimes personified as our female relatives. And these become some of the highest in regard when we think about our sacred relatives. And so I do carry that belief, and I've seen it in my own experiences with my own family members, my grandmothers as well too. But I just wanted to make this time so that we can hear this panel as it manifests really what is the maybe past, present, and even now the future as well too. And so I wanted to share that, but I know we also have a hand up. So Twila, if you would like, feel free to ask your question.
Hello, good morning. My name is Twyla Tubles. That means my dad named me that. He was, the translation of that is when the stars start to come out at night, twilight. Anyway, I'm a reverend in the Episcopal Church, and when I was growing up back in the 70s, there was hardly any women that were, into what's happening now, like art design and fashion design and well-known celebrities buying your beadwork and wearing it. It was more of a struggle and trying to get bread and butter on the table. That was and getting a good job and a home and what have you. Now it's a lot more easier. The banks open up to men and people of color to buy homes, and it's an evolvement, and we've evolved, and we're doing well, and it's healthy, I think. I'm looking forward to the future and what it might hold. So I just want to say congratulations, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Twyla. Sorry for mispronouncing your name at first. Any other questions or comments anybody vocally wants to share with the panelists, or even with just the space that we're holding right now? there are no. Go for it.
Okay.
Go for it, Sanos.
I know sometimes we can be very Lakota-centric, I've been accused of. But it's really cool that we are using the term Ocheti Shakoin. And I kind of changed my introduction, on that. And I'm at the Denver Art Museum today, so it's really cool that it's Lakota Art Day, and I feel that way too here in Denver, and celebrating that. And everywhere it says Ocheti Shakoin. And so I'm really proud that in my lifetime, I am starting to see ways of unification. And the artists are always going to be the reflection of the people. So if we continue to have a united front and be more cohesive and together, like creating this, alliance, and me, I guess I'm speaking like personally too, that like I miss my relatives and I like to hang out. And I like love going to Racing Magpie fast past a couple shows and stuff, and reuniting with my Lakota relatives. So I think there's something really strong we can come together as some kind of coalition, alliance, that then we can be a voice for. And I guess I speak for it as like a fashion mind of it, because everything that you put on the runway is for the world. And so some things I feel like aren't for the world, like eagle feathers. And so where do we kind of come together as a baseline to say those things or agree upon those things, and then disperse it out to other people? But I just wanted to say I'm really excited that we have these spaces coming together, because I've never seen that before. And we just have a really good, awesome opportunity to be good relatives to each other, and unity and love and kumbaya and all of that. So Tahiti love, relatives, I'm with you, and I'm really excited for what the future brings. So happy Lakota Art Day!
Thank you, Sunrose. Thank you. I want to give an acknowledgement, special acknowledgement to one of the participants I see who joined us in the room, Linda Loma Hoptua. Hello, Linda. Greetings from South Dakota. It's very much a great pleasure to have you join us. Linda is a very renowned artist as well, and one of my former instructors at the Institute of American Indian Arts. I'm sure the other ones too, right? You guys have Linda's class. Thank you everybody for being a part of this this virtual session for us as we begin this day. I want to remind everybody that we still have more going on in locations. There will be events happening here at the Oglala Lakota Art Space, which is located centrally in the Pine Ridge Reservation. But then we also have good events happening at Racing Magpie, which is in Rapid City, South Dakota as well too. But I know that some of the talk is inspiring us to think about next year. Maybe we grow next year. Maybe we find ways that we also inspire and encourage our relatives across our indigenous homelands to think about what could these celebrations be like when we look at our art collectively, but also from the heart again, and maybe make those initiatives stand up and do something so that we can really enjoy those days and enjoy them together. I'm gonna circle back to Racing Magpie. Peter, are you there? I just wanted to check in with you and see if you might have any comments or questions from your audience, because I know you got people in person, right?
Yeah, we're still here, and there was just lots of gratitude and interest from this end. You can see a couple of people behind me, so thank you to all the panelists. No specific questions.
All right, thank you, Peter, also for your help. Before we conclude, we are in the spirit of generosity, so we have some door prizes, and everybody who's been entered except for the panelists, just to be ethical. But everybody who's been logged into this panel, you guys' name has been added to this random name picker, and we're gonna pick two individuals. So don't feel let down if your name doesn't get picked. We just want to be able to celebrate and have some fun. But if your name does get picked, please stay on after we end this session, so that way I can get some contact information from you so that we can mail your door prize to you. Okay, so if you guys just bear with me for a second, I'm gonna I can't share the screen. I'm having some difficulties with how I'm toggling through my screen, but I'll spin the wheel. Okay, and so here's the first spin. Believe me, it's not fixed at all. And so the first winner is Powell. Powell, and please correct me if I'm saying or pronouncing it wrong. Powell, P-A-W-E-L. You are our first winner. And so if you could stick on, we'll coordinate to get you your door prize. Okay. The second drawing is going to I wish I could share the screen because it's suspenseful to watch the wheel. Annie Hatch. Annie Hatch, you are the winner for the second drawing. Okay, so please, Annie Hatch, if you can stay on and I can get your contact. All right, that's our first session. This is our virtual artist panel for Lakota Design. I want to give another very, very deep, appreciative, expression to Mary Bordeaux and to Molina Tubles Parker and family as well. And then also to Sunrose Iron Shell. Thank you, Sunrose, for joining us down from Denver, and for Sadie Red Wing as well too. You guys have just been such an amazing group, and I hope that we can continue. Maybe we can think about a seminar as our next steps, and having more discussion. And so with that, everybody, Doksha, enjoy the rest of your day. We hope that you will also take part in these activities we have coming up in locations starting at 1, and maybe even the performances and open mic later this evening as well too. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all.